Hey everyone, this is Natalie from Champion of Coins Tarot, and I'm here today to give you some updates on The Fallen Angels Oracle by Nigel Suckling. This isn't going to be a standard review video because I feel like a lot of the technical details and the historical background behind the deck and behind these goetic demons were already covered in my first impressions video that I did on the day that I received the deck in the mail. So I think for this, I am going to just kind of riff on my own experiences that I've had with it over the past couple of weeks. I'm going to be addressing some concerns that I've seen other readers have about this deck and really just do my best to describe what I feel the energy is like, what I think this deck is really suited for, and touch on some spreads that I think are really helpful as well. So before I begin, just a couple of things. The first is that I did not purchase this deck for myself. Larissa of Storytelling Tea and Tarot had a January deck giveaway, which I won, and she graciously offered me the Fallen Angels Oracle. So this is all absolutely thanks to her and her generosity. Without her, I would have never gotten my hands on this deck. I would never have had just the great and wonderful experiences that I've been having. This is definitely my most used deck for February, both for myself and reading for friends and for other people. And I really couldn't be happier. The second is that this has kind of taken me a little while to film, because I feel like it's not a standard review. So if I go off track or if anything is confusing, like feel free to let me know and I will do my best to answer any additional questions or concerns down in the comments below. If you have any questions just about the technical nature of the deck, about the guidebook, about the artwork, then I would highly encourage you to watch the first impressions video because I just don't think it would be conducive to recover that here. This is really just going to be a riff. So I am just going to go ahead and say that, again, I love this deck. I knew when I took it out of the box that I was going to be really connected to it, but I kind of underestimated just how long it would take to feel that sense of a relationship and a sense of fellowship with it. The energy and the personality of the deck right off the bat is very mature and very wise. It's very, very intellectual. And for the first couple of days that I had it and that I was working with it, I did the deck interview. I read the guidebook cover to cover twice. I looked at all the artwork. I compared the guidebook notes to notes from another Goetic demon themed oracle that I have, the Demon Tarot by Ariana Osborne. So, I was covering all the bases, and I felt like I really had to do a lot of study before I could read with it for myself. I'm not sure why, but I felt like that was what I needed to do. But then when I began reading with it, I decided to let the deck do the talking. And it was absolutely amazing. It was just flawless. Just every single spread that I did, as the readings kept going and as the amount of time that I spent with it continued to unfold, it just opened up and I felt immediately just at home with it and at peace, which was such a pleasant surprise. I feel like this deck is kind of like a college professor in the sense that it's very, very knowledgeable and it genuinely wants to help. But I think that there's just enough distance to keep it like as a professional relationship. So it can be difficult, I think, to kind of initially bridge that gap. Again, it's like it makes me think of how intimidated I was my freshman year of college, setting up appointments for office hours. I was so terrified, and I thought that I would have to like come to the table with all kinds of just crazy expertise in order to impress them. And I felt the same with this deck too, but those fears were unfounded. I feel like whatever kind of effort and whatever energy you put into the deck, it is going to respond to that. And that's certainly the case for me. It matched my curiosity and it matched my determination. And I feel like it truly is a meeting of the minds. It truly is a collaborative effort. It feels like a conversation when I'm reading. And Katie Flowers did a fantastic video this week where she talks about that concept of viewing a tarot reading in the moment as being a collaboration between you and the deck, viewing yourselves as being equal partners. So it takes some of the pressure off of you because, there's the expectation that the deck also has to come prepared and it also has to speak to you in a language that you understand. And that's certainly the case. Once we found our footing together, the Fallen Angels Oracle and I just immediately bonded and we went off running. So my advice is if anybody is still in the stage where it feels very cold, it feels very intimidating, or it feels just very professional and you're not sure how to open up to it, I recommend just reframing your perspective on the reading in the moment. And again, just really allowing it to be a collaborative effort, allowing it to be a partnership. Another thing that I think intimidates people is just the subject matter in and of itself. I think when a lot of people hear the word demons, they think of this Christian concept. They think of these malicious spirits that want to possess people, that want to tempt them and to prevent them from reaching their potential. And it's very scary and it's very intimidating. And I want to say for any of you who are feeling that way about this deck, that the Goetic demons are not inherently evil. And I'll say it again, they are not inherently evil. They are beings who, it is believed in the Abrahamic tradition and in the tradition of demonology, they are demons that are considered to be lesser, or they are spirits that are considered to be lesser because of choices that they have made, because of mistakes that they have made. It could be that they disobeyed the will of God. It could be that they aligned themselves on just the losing side of the war. If you've ever read the Book of Revelation or Paradise Lost, one of the concepts in Christianity is the idea, polarity of Lucifer and the fallen angels versus the angels that are loyal to God. So again, it's like I feel like these are spirits like any other. They are capable of making rational choices. They're capable of, just being responsible for their own choices. And sometimes that's wrong. And I think that especially in the case for this deck, just because they were wrong doesn't mean that they can't still be of value. It doesn't mean that they can't still be helpful. It doesn't mean that they can only be defined by that mistake. And I think that's something that is very, very relatable, especially when approaching a deck in order to use shadow work. I feel like once you can see past the negative associations that Western culture has just with the name, with the terminology that's associated with them, you can find really human characteristics to relate with. And that isn't to say that these are all fluffy beings, that there's all love and light and harmony, because there isn't. Actually, two of the cards that I've pulled as kind of the backdrop for today's video are Glossier, Labulus and Bale. And these two are considered to be two of the most frightening and two of the most dangerous and violent demons of the 72 Goetic beings. They are very selective about who they choose to help. They are very selective about how they intervene and what their methods are. And there are some people who will actually physically summon these spirits. They will summon these demons and interact with them in a physical way, that they will work together and act as partners in craft or in ritual. And I don't do that. I don't feel comfortable doing it. I don't really have an interest in doing it. I like studying the mythology for sure, and I like working with decks such as this one in which I can really explore the archetypes and I can explore the stories and relate them and cross them over into my own life. But I don't do any summoning. But yeah, that's to say that they are intimidating to work with, and that it's highly advised that if you were to venture into those kinds of physical practices, to be on guard and to, like to really kind of just be aware, like don't let them pull the wool over your eyes. But there are others, such as Payman and such as Oribas, that are very kind towards humanity and that they want to atone, they want to help other people. They give wisdom, they give comfort in times of adversity. And so, again, like they are individuals. They are much more multifaceted than just that terminology has, that just that initial impression that we have of them implies. One thing that I think would be very helpful in helping people to kind of get over that idea is to do some kind of ritual around the deck. If you prefer to bless your decks when you receive them or to cleanse them, I would recommend doing that. I actually didn't feel the need to, and that's kind of interesting. Usually when I purchase decks new, I feel, or not new, when I purchase used decks, I feel like I kind of have to bless them. With the Demon Tarot by Ariana Osborne, that's a deck that works with the same mythology. I felt like I definitely had to bless that one. Oh my god. I kind of shudder to think what would have happened if I didn't, just because it was really squirrely. It wasn't bad, it was just really squirrely. It was like a crazy new puppy. I felt comfortable. I felt like this was a very mature, a very intellectual, very wise energy, and I felt comfortable working with it immediately out of the box. But it's okay if you don't feel that way, or it's okay if doing that helps you to grow closer and to grow more comfortable with the deck, because every reader is different. Every person is different. Everybody has different preferences. And I would really encourage you to do that. I think it would be a great way to dispel fears and to give you a really good peace of mind. I think also doing ritual work with it would help you to pick up on the physical energy of this deck, because in my experience, this deck is just, it feels truly alive. When I hold it in my hands, when I'm shuffling, I feel like there's just this fire filling me. I feel like it's filling my chest. I feel like there are flames that are licking my hands. And it's not painful. It's just very powerful. It's empowering. And I love that. And it took some time. Like I said, I had to do a couple of readings after the initial deck interview before I really felt comfortable and I felt really connected with it. But once I did, every time I hold it, every time I do a reading with it, either for me or for somebody else, I feel that physical sensation, and it's absolutely beautiful. And again, like that's not something that I normally experience. I don't feel that way with every deck. I don't feel that way with every spiritual or sacred object that I own. But I definitely feel that. And I would encourage you to use, if you have pendulums or if you just have any experience with picking up energy, with sensing metaphysical energy, that feel free to go ahead and to try and use those practices on this deck, because I feel like it will, again, help to foster that bond. And once you identify it, it's easy to work with it and to allow it to flow. And to also guard yourself and make sure that you are getting the most out of the interaction, that the interaction is really healthy for you. I hope that made sense. Again, I'm riffing in this video. I'm just riffing because I feel like I have a lot to say, and yeah, so again, if none of this is making sense, feel free to ask me to elaborate, and I certainly will. Now, I'm going to kind of try and get back on track. When I first get a deck, I really like to use the spreads in the guidebook that come with it. So this comes with the classic 3-card spread of past, present, and future. It comes with 2 cross spreads. The first is the 5-card spread, and the second is Celtic Cross. And I will say, I was never a Celtic Cross fan. It just never did it for me. I'd seen so many different variations, and I felt like some of them were kind of unnecessary, and it just never resonated with me. But I feel like the Celtic Cross spread was made to be used with this deck. Like, it flows so beautifully. And one thing that I found is that because this deck is so good at doing shadow work, that the spreads really act as a visual way, as a visual reminder of that. So for the 5-card spread, you have the overall situation as the center card. You have the recent past, the causes behind the situation. You have a likely outcome on a practical level. Then at the bottom, you have the spiritual influence behind the situation, which I really use as a representation of the subconscious forces, the things that we aren't aware of, the shadow side of ourselves that we're repressing. And then the 5th card, it talks about the spiritual outcome. And I interpret that more as being the higher plane of conscious, as being that higher self, as getting guidance and insight from that part of ourselves that is connected to divinity and to source and to the knowledge of the universe. And I feel like it's such a great visual representation. I feel like the conscious mind is just, I feel the conscious mind is like the synthesis between the information that is being passed between these two. I feel like there's a beautiful exchange of information happening within the spread. And again, like I feel like this deck is so poetic. I feel like it's so absolutely lovely. If poetry could be distilled into an oracle deck, it would be this one, I think. As far as Nigel Suckling's interpretation of the Celtic Cross, it kind of confused me because he puts the recent past as being the bottom card and then the subconscious as being over here, and it just it threw me off. I didn't like it. So to remedy the situation, I just used the 5-card spread that I'm a big fan of, added in the crossing card, and then kept the traditional positions for 7, 8, 9, and 10. There's also the Solomon Seal spread, which is based off of the Star of David. In the Goetic mythology, in that tradition, it's believed that Solomon used sigil magic in order to seal demons and in order to bind them so he could work with them. And the sigil that he used was Solomon's seal, of course, the Star of David. And so this deck mirrors that. And I think, again, it's a beautiful representation of just the flow between the subconscious mind to the conscious, and from that higher self, from that higher wisdom down to the level of the human and to the level of the earthly. And I find that when I use this spread, there is just so much information and so many parallels between, the diagonal, between different axes of the spread. It's so rich of information. This probably wouldn't be a go-to for other people just because at this stage I'm still, reading in person. I would much more be inclined to use crosses for other people, but I feel like if you want to really just explore this deck and to try to get comfortable reading with it, experiment with the spread and see what kind of results will happen. The other one is the 7-card pyramid, which again has a lovely mirroring of the conscious and the unconscious. On the left side, there is kind of the physical manifestations of certain energies. There's the current situation, impressions. I'm sorry, I think my hair is getting in the shot. Oh my gosh. There is, conscious action and a likely outcome. But then on the other side, on the right, if you go over the bridge, you have what is being hidden, what is being locked away from other people, your inner feelings, just subconscious influences, what your true self, what your hidden self, what your repressed self is feeling about a particular conflict. And this is very useful for looking at relationships and looking at what you're keeping hidden from other people, what you're not comfortable sharing with other people, and how you can work on communication. I don't know if I mentioned that before. Again, I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambly. It took me a while to kind of, again, get my thoughts collected for this video. But I feel like this deck is fantastic at identifying, again, just subconscious psychological influences. And it's also very good at looking at the energetic exchange between people in friendships, in romantic relationships, um, and looking at the different energetic associations you have between yourself and situations, or between different ideas and concepts that you're really struggling to work through. This just offers fantastic and deep insight. And I feel like the more time that you spend with this deck and the more effort you're willing to put in, the deck will respond to that and it will help you with that. I feel like my philosophy when it approaches tarot is, or oracle in this case, is that you should treat your relationship with a deck just like a relationship with a friend or with another person and see what happens. Just, it will respond to that love and it will respond to that care and to that intention. And this is a deck that was made to do just that. It was made to help you process and to become just everything that you have the potential to be. So I think I will go ahead and leave that there. Like I said, if you have any more questions or if you would like any more information about this deck, check out my first impressions video where I talk about more of the technical details. And feel free to message me or to leave a comment below, and I will definitely get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you so much for joining me today, and best of luck to you and to your decks. Bye!